happened. It's very important that we understand what nationality and what birthright is all about. Nationality is based upon your national origin. Birthright has to do with you being connected to the land. And we as people have to hold other bodies based upon geographical locations and that we were brought to the slave trade and we brought here, and that we are not citizens of our own land. When you look at the black revolutionary organization, they talk about African descent. African descent, they show you something that's part of immigration. So all our people today is they were what they call resident aliens. We are not resident aliens. The reason why I say this is because of the fact that the United States government, according to the old law, it has shown that 24 years ago said that the United States government is a corporation with respect to a state. And that the 14th Amendment also brought the national birth certificate into the role of the children of Moorish Flag black slaves as child property, creating an unrevealed trust history. This made a hope of such people fiction and artificial person as opposed to a natural person of placing them in Congress with the U.S. government. So that's why it's very important that our brothers and sisters explaining that kind of birthright that thing, we would have to be caught up into this new age based upon what I call corporate chattel. We understand that at the time it was called child slavery. Today it's called corporate chattel because they're using all forms of bureaucracy and regulation against your natural person. And that's why it's very important that we can play on nationality and birthright so that we won't allow the system to separate. They're not doing property to what? Regularly based upon their own laws and their own government. So I want to bring on Sheik Bro for the night, so that way they have a full understanding of what this whole coming together is about at Washington, D.C. So, this is Sheik Bro right there. Islam. Praise to the God. I'm grateful to everyone who's out here today. On this special day, the notify the nation that we have really concerned about helping their own people to do something. Islam. They all want to run out of here. Because this one, they always ask you to pick one group. They want you the one that's from this group. Because we actually work on this National Family Day rally, which is going to be September 12th in Washington, D.C. And out from that, we don't need the whole day. Islam. My name is Paige-El, and I represent the Federation of the Full-Time Temple Ball on Earth. I'm glad to see you want to take time to come out here and listen to the truth about their nationality and birthright. Now, people don't know what nationality or can distinguish nationality from black, color, moonshine, jigaboo, line. But in 1913 AD, Noble Crowley, which is the founder of the Full-Time Temple of Earth, set up the first temple in Newark, New Jersey, for the sole purpose to teach Africans about their nationality and birthright. Like the brother was saying earlier, nationality is important because it connects you to the land. Negro don't connect you to nothing. But the slave code, black, colored, moonshine, these names that you use the slave, people know that these names you use the slave. That's why they give us these names, because they want to keep us in slavery.
Hey, you right about that.
There's a word just like they were saying in church, say amen. But in this particular case, Islam means peace. Now, let's give you a little history about Howard-Bey, born in the state of North Carolina in 1886. He dedicated his life to the cause of his own people by sacrificing his time to teach Africa about their nationality and birthright. And I'm glad to see the people that come out here that's really interested in hearing anything about themselves. I know that this is Valentine's Day, and they couldn't give their sweetheart a fellow president going into this election. You hear what I'm saying? Because Jesus said the truth shall set you free. Not run around here, you understand? Call yourself all these derogatory names that you use to slave, but by you not knowing that these are derogatory names, then you actually consider
You bringing him, my woman. Yeah, you gotta make that plain. Oh yeah, I see the people. I see them now, Mo. When they come on, you can see them right there in the corner up there. When they come on, yeah, you got some sisters on there too. I ain't have my glasses on. Should have had my glasses on.
Would you please tell us who you are? We are from Moslem, Thomas.
Actually, we run the account. If we want to spend our money and so forth and these other people,
Oh, the chemo.
but if we start proving our
In there.
and we'll come up overnight. All the government say, wake up, Sweet John, and we actually John.
Slam, family. Yeah, Islamism. I can't. Sister Grant, let me use the restroom right quick. I'll be right back. I'll come back to it.
They said that they were up here in 1619. It's another way around. We brought them here. A lot of people don't know that this land is the United States government. This land, North America, South America, Central America, is actually our empire. This is an old map right here. This map is actually when the earth was intact. This right here basically deals with the land. This right here was the land.
Man, that was he was getting it, Sister Grant.
These are a lot.
Which means the demarcation line of matching the true and divine name of Adam. The divine is the language of the Father and the Son. The domain of Cush, northeast, southeast Africa, and northwest, southwest is Father's domain of Adam. Okay, the domain of Cush, northeast, southeast, this is basically the continent of Africa as it is today, and half of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, Ham, right here, which represents Northburg, Centralburg, Southburg, domain for Northwest, Southwest, was the smallest domain, which represents Ham. And later years, many of the prophets from Asia and the Holy Land joined them. These people are what we call the Hittites, Amorites, and Moabites. These people that you will find in the Bible. These are the biblical names. These are the same people that call themselves Indians today. Remember, Columbus was trying to find a shortcut to go to India. This is not Indian, but the name Indian was stuck and put on the people that was inhabiting this part of the world. And we were in that moment. They called us Indians first. After they took our land and killed all our folk farms, then they started calling us Negroes. Then black, color, moonshine, big fool, and all the rest of the things. After they took our land. The Moabites, from the land of Moab, who received permission from the Pharaoh of Egypt to settle and inherit the northwest Africa. They were found in all the true settlers of the present Roman Empire. Like I said, this was our empire. We navigated the 7 seas and more ruled the world.
Right.
And in 1492, now was the last year we moved to Spain. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, they came and kicked us out. Islam,
It's right.
we know anything about Spain. Or the Moorish Flag. Hopefully, this is why we did. Get some history. Then we're going to feed you mentally, and we're going to feed you physically. We be patient.
Got that.
Okay? It says the Moabites from the land of Moab who received permission from the Pharaoh of Egypt to settle and have the northwest Africa. They were families and all the true settlers of the present Roman Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, Amorite brothers who sojourned from the land of Canaan, speaking new homes. All right, we will let that know. Our ancient name and our biblical name was Moabite. The dominion of the inhabitants extends from northeast and southwest Africa across the Atlantic Ocean. You know what I'm saying? Even unto the first north of the Central America. Also Mexico, they landed islands that's like Cuba, Haiti, Bahamas. Before the great earthquake, which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. All this was intact, you know. But what we was going to do was coming across, it was a river
Huh? Yeah, that's all right. 12:30, you good? Yeah. Yeah, just yeah, you all right? Okay. Yeah, you try. All right. Good.
Paige-El also Leon
Grand, I got this sister grand, you grand governor. I think it's business. Oh, thanks.
There can be no doubt whatsoever that he has seen the Negroes smoking in or before 1535, but he did not dare to take himself away from the Colombian business of smoking. They never heard about people smoking, but they never seen nobody smoking until they came here. Until Pedro wrote Columbus did. Columbus didn't know where he was going. Pedro knew where he was going. Pedro was Lord. If anybody in here has a Hispanic background, please get in. Okay, have you ever heard that your profile ever told you about the laws? Well, ask them about the laws and all. We invaded Spain in 1711. If it wasn't, what nationality are you? Okay, let's go to Puerto Rico. All right. If it wasn't for the war, you would be Puerto Rico. But in other words, you are Asian. So you have to talk to your face. You talk to Puerto Rico, you speak Spanish, right? You don't speak Spanish? Okay. But anyway, if it wasn't for the war, you would have got Puerto Rican instead of it. You need to talk to your parents about Spanish and so forth. Not just there, but here. Check this out. So your nationality is involved too. Yes, sir. Brooklyn asked your parents if he's Spanish. Especially if grandparents. Ask them what the word gorilla is. You understand the Spanish? You don't ask them, they can tell you what the word gorilla is. Whatever. Right? Simply, a person of color, who is black. Well, there's a lot of history in the There's a lot of history behind it. Brian Stone, Moreno, because Moreno in Spanish, Moy in French, they're all the same. They don't have to say it too many. You know what I'm saying? Because basically, what people say, well, how can you say that you are more? And we've been mentioning all these different people. First of all, to say that you were more because this was a Moorish government. Just like you saying that you are an American, you can be mixed with anybody. Once you come in this United States of America, you become a what? America. So you got to go back to the foundation where they found that. This was a Moroccan government, and for the national aspect of it, that's what will make you a whole. And then everybody, they don't even deal with nationality. You need to start dealing with what they call human rights, because everybody's entitled to a nationality. Right now, I think it is important when they start using that
He'll be here. They'll be here. They coming. You come on in if you want to. Huh? Oh, you good? You all right? Oh, you all right, baby? Oh, that mess. Yes, baby, there, Grango. Baby. Oh, yeah. Got it, Grango? Yeah, you got it. You want to put a table up there? What you think? Want to put a table up here? Can't put a table up here now. Okay.
They
Dang. That's right. Oh, Lord. It's Slam, Mo. Hey, Slam, what's going on? Oh, it's good. Hear what I'm saying, baby? You see what I'm doing? See what I'm doing? You see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
What I do? Baby. Yeah, maybe it's something good. Huh? Huh? No, you good. No, people coming in, you know, they take your time, slag, drag. Yeah, they come. Baby don't know. That's my stepdaughter there, right? That's my stepdaughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She getting the hang of it, though. So that right there was our Supreme Grand Governor. Okay. but you be doing it.
And which is the fruit of the tree yield seed to you, and it shall be for me. Now I want to point these things out because the name of the thing for our family that dwell in Washington, D.C. is the resurrection and the valley of the dry bones. So somebody or something is going to be resurrected that day. In other words, as people walk around and call themselves Negro, black, the black being sort of sign of something dead. So we're going to resurrect our people from that dead state of mind. In other words, showing them different things, revealing them the truth of the truth shall set you free. Evidently, lives that are locked up. Evidently. Now, don't get that verse, especially verse 28, because verse 28, from 26, verse 26 to verse 28, there's a lot of information in them verses. Read about yourself. Don't think I wrote a special Bible here. You know, go home to yourself, the regular King James Bible, and make sure you get one of the older ones because they got new translations now. They changing even this old. You won't actually find out what they done done with us. Now, right chapter, go to chapter 5 of Genesis. The fifth chapter of Genesis. Read this. It says, the fifth chapter of Genesis, write this down and read it yourself. It says, this is the book of the generations of Adam. Now, if Adam's the only person here, it should be no generations of Adam. We still in Genesis. It says, the day that God created man in the likeness of God, they keep him. Male and female created keep them. Male and female. So we look at Adam. Adam was supposed to be one person according to a certain method. They're supposed to, they don't want all these events at school. They don't supposed to be telling out all these lies. They're supposed to be revealing the truth to them, how they have us locked up in this Bible. When you finish reading, you can find who Adam is. Male and female created Eve, them, and blessed them, and called their name, this is what I'm saying, and called their name Adam. That means Adam was being more than one person. Have you ever heard that before? It's wrong. It wasn't tribal people. But what I'm saying is right here in this Bible, this is your Bible, that you need to go into and reveal into your loved ones. We're to set yourself free.
You got it now?
From this view that Adam is one person, Eve is one person, and this is not a person who can't have power with. That's basically why I'm going into the Bible, it's just this message of power. When anybody has any questions, so far.
Yes, sir.
You know what you are saying.
Islam. Islamism. Open up with the Moorish American prayer.
Islam. Where is the east?
Face the east. East is this way.
Okay.
Islam.
Islam.
On the left, two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
The Father of love.
The Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My God.
My God.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen. Islam. Praise Allah. I rise giving all eternal praise to the great God of the universe for allowing us all to be here today. Honors to his holy divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, who brought us his great life. Honors to the brother Nazarite who paved the way for our founder, John and Harbinger, paved the way for Jesus. Giving honors to the honorable Marcus Moslem. Giving special honors to all the successors of Noble Drew Ali, especially Timothy Dingle-Gill, hyphenated Noble Drew Ali, to his other half, Louise Dingle-Gill, and to our Supreme Grand Governor, Jerome Graham Bey, and our Supreme Governor, Margaret Thompson Bey. Honors to all Muslims, all Buddhists, Confucians, Christians, etc. Islam. Peace.
Peace.
I'd like to welcome everyone here today for our Moorish American Social and Economic Series. This is our first, and it's also entitled the Moorish Masterclass. What we'll be discussing today is the aspect of citizenship and nationality. And there are elements that are included with that which will be discussed by our speakers today. Our speakers today include Grand Sheik Robert Paige-El, Sheik J. Howard-Bey, and Grand Sheik Shem, who will be giving discourses on various aspects of the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali as it relates to citizenship and nationality. And as I stated, it will include also aspects of Moorish history. We were blessed to hear some Moorish history moments ago by the past Supreme Grand Governor of the Federation of Moorish Science Temple of America, Jerome Bey. And we're just, in our effort is to continue that work that he set us upon, the work of the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So we welcome all the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We welcome all sympathizers. We welcome all citizens from all nationalities. We hope that you will enjoy our program and hope that you will learn something today from us. At the beginning, I would like to open with the purpose of our social and economic series. We are drawing from the works of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 AD in Newark, New Jersey. And there's a lot of history that goes with Noble Drew Ali, a lot of history that made it so that the great God of the universe, who we Muslims call Allah, would ordain and prepare, divinely prepare, someone, a representative here on earth, to demonstrate the will of God, to demonstrate the needs of the people in this particular era of time, the needs of a specific people who come out of slavery, being enslaved, and the needs of really all nations of the earth. Noble Drew Ali meant both. But not to belabor the point, because as our speakers demonstrate, they will talk about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But I'm going to read from the Moorish Leader's Historical Message to America that gives the background for our Moorish American Social and Economic Series. This is Moorish Leader's Historical Message to America. In connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization, covering its inception, rise, and progress, and of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of at all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, of our posterity, such as obedience to law, respect, and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year of 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois, November the 29th, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America, May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of the State of Illinois. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. For the sake of time, I'm going to read further on into the Moorish Leader's Historical Message to America. In the promotion of plans for the betterment of mankind, there has ever been some kind of opposition. And strange as it may seem, such opposition has come from sources where there were no ideas or the lack of courage to force attention to ideas, whether in church, state, or the social community. Any attempt to do anything out of the usual way seldom fails to receive criticism, not because the course cannot be pursued legally or that it is unreasonable, but because it has been considered in terms as new. The Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. In the main, the opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms as something new. Whatever the reasons may be for their opposition, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious belief does not exist in the United States. The door of religious freedom made by the American Constitution swings open to all, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress would be checked, and we would no longer march forward toward the noble life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there would be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness into the vast beyond, seeking a hope eternal. It is a sad weakness in us, after all, to oppose our fellow man for their religious beliefs. And if there are angels who record the sorrows of men as well as their sins, they certainly know how many and deep are the useless sorrows that spring forth from such opposition. Possibly, love and time will cancel our ancient hatreds in this regard and prove that in mankind, tolerance is better than unwarranted opposition. In connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. The preaching of economic security by us, among us, is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. No other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power. Better positions for our men and women, more business employment for our boys and girls, and bigger incomes will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. Our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business. In spite of the trials and failures of some of them, trials and failures in business are by no means confined to any particular group of people. Some business ventures of all people fail. We have many men and women among our people who are qualified, both by training and experience, who are shining lights in the business world of all the people. It is a sad weakness in us as a people that we have withheld the very encouragement, support, and patronage that would have made some of our worthy business ventures a grand success. And worst of all, have joined in the condemnations of them when they failed. Except in cases of actual dishonesty, discourtesy, lack of service, social and actual unreliability, our business enterprises in every field of endeavor should have fullest of confidence, cooperation, and patronage whenever and wherever they can be given. Read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. In this era of time now, those who are not members, you are able to receive these pamphlets at expense. In conclusion, I urge you to remember that there is work enough for all to do in helping to build a better world. The problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. Have lofty conceptions of your duties to your country and fellow man in general, and especially those with whom you deal. This includes such honesty and righteousness as will cause you to put yourself in the other fellow's place. Look for the best in others and give them the best that is in you. Have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. Brighten the hopes of our youth in order that their courage be increased to dare and do wondrous things. Adhere at all times to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I, speaking of Noble Drew Ali and your affectionate leader, I shall continue to labor day and night, both in public and private, for your good, thereby contributing to the welfare of our country and its people as a whole. Noble Drew Ali. Islam?
Yes, right.
And just wanted to read that to give the background for the social and economic series. Prophet Noble Drew Ali is the one who brought us the light of Islam here in America. We were sick at heart. We did not know the truth about our nationality and birthrights. Many of us didn't know what that meant, what those words meant. We didn't know what was needed for us to be full citizens here in America. We never thought it was a possibility that we could be full citizens. And some of our sisters and brothers today wonder on that point now. But we, Moorish Americans, contend that Noble Drew Ali brought us the instructions that will enable us to be better citizens, a class of citizens that Noble Drew Ali referred to as genius citizens. So we want to introduce you to these concepts today and hopefully bear them in mind and bring discussion on some of these teachings. At this time, I will call our first speaker, who will speak on the Moorish Flag, nationality, and Moorish history here in America. I will call up Grand Sheik Robert Paige-El.
I give honor to my grand governor, making that introduction. Islam.
Islam.
I will praise you, Allah. Give honor to the Almighty God, Allah, for us being here and the one that's on the call, and to all that's here in attendance. Give all praise to Almighty God, Allah. Give honor to all those who my grand governor gave honor to. Islam which means peace. As the brother said here, I'm demonstrating on the Moorish flag. Our flag is important. It protects us in society. Islam. You know, now this flag is over 10,000 years old. And these 5 pointed green stars is 5 principles that Grand Governor Stonewall was talking about, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Flag principles have been known to man ever since the beginning of time. Islam. And so, you know, and so now some people, I'm gonna get into a little later, think this is the Moroccan flag, but Morocco got the independence from Alpha Saka in 1956. So this is the oldest flag, this is the mother of all flags. Islam, it's the oldest flag in the world. Matter of fact, do a little history search, what that did is the first flag in the world. Islam. So the prophet, and also this flag been in battlefield. Islam. So, you know, in the year of 1812, if I ain't mistaken, Islam, right, in Battle Creek, Michigan. You know, we get this from our historic book,
Biography of Moors.
Yeah, biography of the Moors. Right, and and the flag been, you know, the flag is your protection. See, and kind of so the flag, as I stated before, and kind of so the flag, when you see people out here demonstrating, our brothers and sisters, they got no protection, none whatsoever, no protection. That's why the police can do what they want to do to them. But when you have your identity, the flag can do what they want to do to you. You know, we all seen prime example with the Moors have run in with the government. What they do? They get the flag. See, I like the brother Nils L. He got his flag. He's recognized as a nation of people.
That's right.
And so on the black and African American, you're not recognized as no nation. That's why the government do what they want to do to you because, as I stated before, you property. Now, so they know, just like you see when these countries go to war, what's the first thing they do? Get the flag. Canada, when they had that stoppage, you know, when they blocked the road, what they do? They were passing out the flag. That's right. Canada flag. That's right. And so when we deal with the government, you got to have Moorish, you know, both these flags. When you deal with outside the country or dealing with it inside the country, you got to have both of them because you can't have this flag without that flag can't go without this flag.
That's right.
Islam, so you know you got to have both of them. That's why we Moorish flag. Islam. And the brother coming back fought over here in Michigan. Had the Moorish flag. Moorish flag went down. He was defeated by European French. Islam? French colony. And then after the Moorish flag went down, that's when the French colonized Morocco. 100 years later, after the Moorish flag went down. So you know that the French colonized Morocco after the Moorish flag went down 100 years later. But now the flag went back up in 1925 through our brother, the Holy Prophet Moderator. Right here, as Grand Governor spoke about, he was the only one who brought us our true identity back and our nationality and birthright. Birthright is the land that that we're located from. Ain't no land called black or African American. Ain't no land called that. So anyway, the flag been stored away for 125 years until the Prophet Moderator came and put it back up in 1925 he got it from under the administration of Calvin Coolidge, which was the president at the time. And so the prophet, the reason why he got it in 1925 because he announced his prophethood in 1925. Islam. See, he couldn't get it. Like a lot of people think he got the flag in 1912. No, he wasn't a prophet in 1912. He was a Professor Drew and Gibson Act. That was on his nationality. That was on the prophet nationality. Professor Drew and Gibson Act. So from 1912 all the way to 1924, flag stayed in the ball. Washington, D.C. at the time, which was the capital. Islam. Because because see, you had three capitals. You had Philadelphia was the first, New York was the second capital. Now we got that third, Washington, D.C. Islam. So that's important to know. So Washington is the capital right now. So that's where Prophet Moderator with it and retrieved the Moorish flag. Not Morocco, the Moorish flag. Those who are listening to the Moorish flag. See, Morocco got their independence, like I said, March the 2nd, 1956. And the flag went up, according to this up-to-date library, like the prophet said, we get to an up-to-date library to correct our history. Moorish flag, the Moroccan flag went up in 1957, according to an up-to-date library. So it's in this library, matter of fact, when you and I are secrets with me and Stephen Davis. But anyway, continue on with the Moorish flag. See, so this flag stayed in the vault 125 years until the prophet. That prophet there came and retrieved it and put it back up, and he connected us to a nation of people. See, without a flag, you're not a nation of people. That's very important. Without a flag, you're not a nation of people. So when people call themselves black, I said, where your black flag at? Or where your African American flag at? Because Africa got 53 countries, each one represented by a flag. And so the government knows this. And like Supreme Grant was giving up the history, like he said, the government knows that we're not black and African American. They know that. But they want to, like he said, keep us enslaved. So when this flag went down, it took away identity. This is the cherry tree that General George Washington had chopped out. Took away our identity. Chopped down this red flag with the 5 pointed red stars. Just a cherry tree right here. Islam.
Islam.
And so, prophet came 125 years later and retrieved it back. So, you know, like the Grand Governor mentioned, Prophet Noble Ali was the first, the only one to give us back our history. And we had to research him. See, we didn't take everything on face value. See, the prophet said, investigate out the prophet.
That's right.
And so we investigated him and come out everything he said was true. See, and see, and we would never call before the flag came down, we would never call black or African American came in the 80s by Jesse Jackson named his dad. Because he stole it from someone else, from a sister that came from Africa, and he just took it, named it when he ran for president, named it African American. And so, and now we use the term right now today, but without the flag, you have no protection. The flag is the key to all protection. It's not. I don't want to take up much time. You come back later. You good. You good. Okay. Now here. So the prophet was sent to this earth by Almighty God Allah to come and retrieve this flag. Islam?
Islam.
Like I stated, Morocco and the Moors were entering Morocco at the time. You know, so 44 years later, the Moroccan flag from Northeast Africa on the country received their independence from France. Yeah, 44 years later. You see, they were independent from France. Islam. Now, in retrieving the flag, probably went through a lot of like the Grand Governor said, opposition. Islam.
Yes, sir.
No, but through the guidance of Almighty God Allah, he got through. 1925 was the year that he got through. Got a lot accomplished for this movement. Islam.
Yes, sir.
In 1925, that's when he claimed his prophethood. That's when he got the Moorish Flag. Because Calvary said you can't get his flag without that American flag. So the prophet said, well, that makes sense. It made sense to the prophet of the Ali, so he got both flags. That's why I said you can't have that flag without his flag. They go together. The flags go together. American flag and Moorish flag. They go hand in hand. Islam. Islam is the Lord. And that's a little short brief on the flags. And I'll yield the floor back to the Grand Governor for the moment. Islam.
Yes, man. I want to thank Grand Sheik Bro drew a society for us here in America. He knew that under the names Negro, Black, and Color, we would not be recognized as a nation of people or as citizens. At this time, we're going to just show a few slides just in preparation for the next two presenters, and we'll continue our discussion. First of all, this picture, as we all see, many of us recognize is Noble Drew Ali, the prophet Noble Drew Ali, who brought a whole nation of people out of darkness into light. But that nation of people got members that have to make a choice, whether they will follow this man's teachings. And there's certain things they may not know about this man. They may not know that this man is actually Jesus reincarnated. They may not know that Jesus 2,000 years ago made a prophecy about the Comforter who would come. And that when the Comforter comes, he would reveal all truth. And the man that Jesus was speaking of, that he would reveal the truth back in those days of that age, of the Piscean age, was the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who had the responsibility of revealing the Holy Quran. Every prophet has to bring a gospel. They have a teaching or a book that they're responsible for. Jesus was responsible for what we call the New Testament, but in Arabic we say the Injil or the Gospels.
That's right.
And when you read the Bible, you're dealing with the Gospels, you're mainly dealing with the first 4, and just a little bit into the 5th book of the New Testament. That's what Jesus was responsible for teaching. Jesus said, I come not to break the law, but to fulfill the law. Then comes Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who comes, and he came so that the true followers of Islam would have comfort. Each prophet carries a sword with them, which is the spirit of truth. So Prophet Muhammad made a prophecy that Jesus would be reborn again in the West, that he would not live that long. And that prophecy fits Noble Drew Ali, who came in this modern era time. What we call the end of time. 1913 is when he came. 1914, most theologians and scholars say it was the end of the world. It was the end of an age, which was the Piscean age.
That's right.
That's why they fought a world war. And that's why they still fighting wars.
That's right, bro.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali came to save us and those who would accept his guidance coming from his Father God. Okay, I'm just going to show a little bit, give you a little bit from a legal scholar named Paige-El, who was quoted in the Dred Scott case. That's going to be brought up later. I won't get into the Dred Scott case. That's going to be brought up. But this statement by Paige-El says, nations or states are bodies politic. Societies of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their mutual strength. Such a society has her affairs and her interests. She deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and a will peculiar to herself. So a society or a nation, we're usually speaking the feminine. We usually speak of a society or a nation in the feminine because we say a woman represents the nation.
That's right.
And those legal scholars know this as well. From the very design that induces a number of men to form a society which has its common interest and which is to act in concert, that means together, it is necessary that there should be established a public authority to order and direct what is to be done by each in relation to the end of the association. This political authority is the sovereignty. It's not.
That's right.
So we want to make that clear right now that we're not talking about sovereign individuals, sovereign citizen movement. It's settled, etc. That the political authority is the sovereignty. We have in the United States of America a concept called popular sovereignty, where the representatives represent the people who are sovereign. And Noble Drew Ali taught this. That's why he said loyalty to government
That's right.
is important.
That's right.
This is part of citizenship, understanding these precepts and these concepts. And for the Moorish Americans, it's about getting back to the teachers of Noble Drew Ali. For us as a whole, all people, Asiatics, we're talking about people who from North, South, and Central America, the indigenous people, North, South, and Central America. And in North America, we're talking about the Moorish Americans and the Mexican people. Islam.
That's right.
We all one family.
That's right, bro.
Noble Drew Ali is getting us back, all of us, back into the constitutional fold of government. Again, this writer remarks the authority of all over each member essentially belongs to the body politic or the state. Either in this later on with the speakers, in this particular series today, we'll get more to that body politic, or future series will. By the same writer, it is also said the citizens are the members of the civil society, bound to this society by certain duties, subject to its authority. They equally participate in its advantages. The natives or natural-born citizens are those born in the country of parents who are citizens. That may go over people's ears. I'm going to read that sentence again. The natives or natural-born citizens are those born in the country of parents who are citizens. So there are some born, even those, some of us who were born here. The Prophet Obadiah Ali said, by you being born here does not make you a citizen.
That's right.
So something has to happen in order for us to truly be a citizen.
Right.
There's different classes and statuses that will be spoken about later. And society cannot perpetuate itself otherwise than by the children of citizens. Those children naturally follow the condition of their parents and succeed to all their rights. Well, part of passing on that posterity, that civilization, is that the citizen must know the government. The citizen must be aware of the history of the nation to keep it going.
That's right.
And that's what Grand Sheik Robert Paige-El opened up with. And the citizen in American law, this is just a very condensed definition, just for the purpose of this introduction. One who, under the Constitution and laws of the United States or of a particular state, is a member of the political community, owing allegiance and being entitled to the enjoyment of full civil rights. So there's a responsibility within this demonstration.
It's right.
And here, civil rights, we're not talking about the civil rights movement, the civil rights bill. We're talking about civil law and the rights according to it.
It's right. So
there's a difference. I apologize for the brevity, having to be brief on it, but at this time, thank you, Grand Sheik. Just wanted to pass that on. At this time, we will prepare for our next speaker, who will speak on the civilized social order. And we have from Delaware, Federation of West Side Civil of America, Sheik J. Howard-Bey.
It's right. That's good.
Rise, giving all perfect praise to Allah, Father, the universe, Father, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Sending honors to forward, Marshal Saigali, sending honors to everyone who is here. Just definitely want to, keep in tune with, things tonight. With them say, like getting PowerPoint together. Praise Allah. Did you see the email going through? Give me a second more. I might be able to pull up.
Okay. Got the camera on your muffin. They got people watching. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, but hopefully if we can get to document that, would be pretty awesome.
Okay.
Give you what I got.
Okay. Yeah. You got many sisters watching.
Praise Allah for the brothers and sisters. Praise Allah for the little ones. So, yeah, definitely, we'll see. Let's see more. See it? Well, in general, already given some definitions about citizenship. I wanted to get into what it is to be civilized, civilization, right? So, it used to be a little cartoon, or not a cartoon, a commercial from Charles Barkley. I remember that, right? Charles Barkley commercial, it would be out.
Oh, Charles Barkley.
Yeah, it would be a right guard commercial.
Right.
And he used to say at the end, anything else would be uncivilized. So this is a demonstration where we have a very brief understanding on it. And, as a society in general, because we're using these words and it's very important, I want to break down each word. But working in tune, I can get the demonstration another time on the PowerPoint. But, Moors being in a position of where we are, we sometimes like forget where we are, right? And let me explain that. So I'm going to take a reading real quick from the Holy Quran, Moorish Flag of America. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I'm going to take a reading on the first two instructions. Chapter 45 is the divine origin of the Asiatic nations, right? So right there, we're talking about the nations of the world. Islam.
Islam.
So it says the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know their higher self and their lower self. Now that's important because having an understanding of those, you get balance in life. Islam.
Islam.
And it says, this is the united of the Holy Quran of Mecca and teaching the instructions of Moorish Americans, ETC. So ETC is very important too. Islam.
Islam.
It doesn't necessarily take out anyone. In fact, it involves other people. Islam.
Islam.
And we'll go into that a little bit. So in a demonstration instruction too, it says the key of what?
Civilization
was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. That includes us here in America. Islam. We just talked about in instruction 1 what we need to do as Asiatic nation. Islam. In North America. Islam. South America. ETC. Right? So again, that's a demonstration about having the power that we have. The key to civilization is in our hands. Our ancient forefathers and mothers were the keys to civilization. Islam. Just going on, reading on instruction 3, it says the Egyptians, who are the Hammatites and direct descendant of Mizraim, the Arabians, of the seed of Hagar. Islam. Japanese and Chinese. It says the Hindus of India, the descendants of the Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. It says the 88 nations of North, South, and Central America. Islam. That's us here. Islam.
Islam.
So, we get a demonstration of, and the prophet still keeps on giving us that understanding, like just in case you didn't know. It says the Moorish Americans and Mexicans and North America, Islam, North America again. Give you an understanding, a demonstration about where we are on this land mass, right? In North America, it says the Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans, and where? South America. Islam. So nobody's, excluded. It goes on to some other nations. But like I said, it says all of these are Muslims. Islam. So even in those customs from around the world, which, I take interest in, you see in different civilizations, you see a pattern. Islam. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's a pattern where you can see the footsteps. Islam. So I'm reading you clearly cut. So civilization, I think we're pretty good on what it is to be civil, right? A lot of times we say civilization is coming out of a barbarous state. Islam. Even in the more science of America, we see a boost of understanding. Islam. We're not saying we're not civilized coming into the door, right? We're just saying we're trying to do something greater, which is to civilize our minds. Islam. Try to give us a demonstration, try to get a real understanding. Getting Charles Barkley. Anything else would be uncivilized, because when you take yourself out of that barbarous mindset, Islam, I can tell you right now, it's just a blessing.
Islam.
So I think we're kind of clear on civilization. Islam. I know this is a class, so I just want to, try to touch each key point. So civilized social order. Social. Islam, and this is a real good demonstration about being social. Islam, like even as us as individuals, we're socialites. Islam, we're socialites, and even in the demonstration that was prepared before, some of the great things that we were learning in the 1900s. Islam. 1913, Islam, 1915, 1920s, Islam was learning to be social. Islam, coming out of Reconstruction era, right? Islam. It was a popular book by a brother who kind of said they had the Reconstruction of the blacks, so-called blacks, Negroes and colors. Islam. And from that, it kind of sprung out a lot of different organizations. Islam. And it sprung out a lot of different thought patterns. Islam. And I probably know draw late praise to Allah for bringing him and giving us understanding. We're not speaking radical in organizations, but in general, it tells us about these organizations. It's good to know about them. Islam. So some of these organizations that the Prophet knew it was making an influence at that time was UNIA. Islam. UNIA, Marcus Garvey being a forerunner of our Prophet himself. So other organizations were also making moves during that time. So that was an experiencing time. We had individuals who were making a great influence on the jazz Harlem Renaissance. Islam, this was something of a revamping Islam of the people. But one thing was missing. We was revamping ourselves, but we didn't have nationality and divine creed. Islam, a lot of these organizations said they had the remedy, but couldn't provide the remedy. Islam, it was just something missing by those organizations either falling by the wayside or, you know, whatever it may be, being infiltrated or what have you. They just didn't last, Islam. And even so, you know, the Moorish Flag of America, we have received our positions of that Sheik, Islam, being, you know, as the prophet said, you know, upright, independent Moor, Islam. Because we have that eye on us, Islam. The world is looking at us, Islam. I always say that, you know, nobody is reading the Quran, they're reading you, Islam. So, praise the Lord. I'm going to take also another reading. We already demonstrated from it, but by on the Moors, Islam, on civilization, Islam. So it says the Moors are founders of the first permanent civilization of the old world. It says the Moors, the descendants of the ancient Moabites. We just read that demonstration out of the Holy Quran, Islam. Like as a government to pull it from a different record now. Islam. It says the Moors, and it might be redundant, but that's, you know, that's following that pattern. The ancient Moabites were the root of civilization. They were the founders and master builders of the present city of Mecca, located in Saudi Arabia. We'll stop right there. We'll give some more honors to different civilizations. Islam. Honors to the brother Howard-Bey being here in attendance as well. Like we already discussed, the brother has the flag of Mexico. Islam. In our Quran, Islam. And in the understanding of knowing about the ills and bays and his tribal demonstrations, Islam. So even when they're coming in through a situation of the civilization in Mexico, Islam. Some of the same patterns, Islam. Some of the same patterns that you might see in other places, you know, outside of Africa and inside, Islam. Throughout. Right? So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about that. It says the ancient Moabites, who are in again Australia, again, Islam. The ancient Moabites, who are the people always on the move. It said they received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt in ancient times to settle and inhabit in Northwest Africa, America today in quotation. It says they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. Now, the Moroccan Empire has a base, Islam, and I kind of break that down sometimes when I'm talking to people about that power again, and, you know, calling themselves sheiks, and, you know, governors and what have you. This demonstration is a power. It's this vibration in words, Islam. Like, you know, you probably kind of figured it out when you go around. You might be having a bad day, but then when you hear words like Allah, Islam, Drew Ali, you know, it kind of perks you up, get you another demonstration, brings another spirit to you. So again, as I was saying, that we have an empire, Islam, and I'll go ahead and read from chapter 47 real quick, Islam, because I know there's another speaker here, and I know he's ready. Praise Allah.
Islam.
Just wish I could get that PowerPoint going where I had the different monuments from civilization, but we'll probably work in tune with the YouTube Islam. I'm grateful for the Moors that's here. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna read from chapter 47 now. Islam, Egypt, the capital empire, and the dominion of Africa. Like last night, Holy Day was speaking about the dominions. Islam. Now, I mean, it's really cool. Like you gotta really get the difference here, right? You got a kingdom, right? Normally ran by one king. Islam. Kingdom can be pretty vast, Islam. You're not putting a limitation on what a king can do, Islam. But then you got, you know, an empire, Islam, which is normally more than one kingdom, Islam. So this is more than one kingdom that we're understanding when we say we're the true possessors and the true founders of civilization and everything like that. We say that, but we have to have a really understanding that in these kingdoms, the majority of the people look like us, Islam. Talk like us, Islam. So the demonstration is very clear. So it says the dominion of Africa. I'm gonna go again I'm gonna skip down to 7 where we get into where we are again in this present state. It says 7. It said their dominion. So the dominion being, you know, that radiance, that space. I like to reference movies. So of course, one of my favorite movies is The Lion King. Slam. Remember The Lion King?
That was with
Yeah, cartoon. Slam.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So in The Lion King, some scene where Simba goes out with his father Mufasa, and he shows him. He said, you know, this is going to be your dominion.
Right.
This is going to be your kingdom. As far from the elephant tusks, you rule. Slam.
Islam.
So it's a demonstration. So in 7 it says, their dominion and inhabitant extended to northeast and southwest Africa. Right? You know, again, we read earlier out of the biography of Moors when I'm saying Africa. I'm talking about a very large land. It says across the Atlantic. So again, the dominion is extended across the Atlantic. We were given a demonstration by Sage Master on the map. Slam, give you a physical demonstration to see for yourself. Slam. So this is what this is based off of. So when I'm telling you across, just follow on the map. Slam. So it says their dominion extended to northeast and southwest Africa, across the Atlantic. Slam. So the Atlantis is on the demonstration. You see Atlantis, the landmass. We're gonna get to that. It says also North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico, and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake. It says, which caused the Atlantic Ocean. So now again, looking at the demonstration what our sage master gave us, this is a demonstration that predates the great earthquake. Slam. This is a demonstration that, you know, have you understand of your ancient forefathers, Islam. And that's what when we start tapping in about civilization, that's what we're talking about, those ancient forefathers, Islam. We have some forefathers that did great things, Islam. That's all I want to point out, Islam. Now, with the order, you know, that's another demonstration. In general, what Noble Ali has done is brought us into the fold, Islam. And it's a certain order how he did it, Islam. He gave us what we call the law. Slam. This was the order, Slam, that changed it all. Slam. This was an executive order, as executive ruler Noble Ali was. Slam. Slam. I think that's a little bit too fast. So the executive ruler, Slam, had this executive order. Slam. And this is just, the 1099. Slam. So it's a demonstration about her revised statutes that, we have to be studied. Slam. And I think what was used earlier in the demonstration, what was said earlier, is about how we had these words that we had to put in place. Like the society. Slam. So Noble Drive, they can give you to understand the society. I like how he said we're a Rotarian complex. Slam. Rotarian complex is really based off of what you might know as a Rotary Club. Islam. So again, we're falling in line with the understanding, having different temples and what have you. So again, that demonstration about him and what he's done for us is very vast. But what we can really draw from it is that as us being civilized in our minds set now, because we who have proclaimed our nationality, tried to give ourselves an understanding of, who we are and where we come from, we've got that key, Islam. We received that key of civilization, right? We've got that. And then, even as us as Moorish Americans in our position of trying to be social, we know we have to do what was most important is just to hand press people, Islam, and hand press them in law. Islam, hand press them, and that can be various stations that you might have to do that. Islam. You putting your hand press out, that's a hand press of unity. Islam, that's a uniting demonstration. It's being social. Let me go there. Prophet Noble Jali told us how to be social. Islam and our social duties. Islam? So again, when you press your hand, you just go ahead and go to chapter 30, Islam. And very brief chapter, I'm going to get through this more. Holy instructions for the Holy Prophet Noble Ali, right? He wrote this about social duties, Islam. It says, when I consider thy wants will not beholdeth thy imperfections, acknowledge his goodness, O son and daughter of humanity. Islam, again, those organizations that were being tuned, Islam, were, and I would say, guys as a position to help humanity. Islam, you have certain organizations like, different clubs. Islam, again, not trying to be radical at all. So
bring the truth.
The name, Islam.
Bring the truth.
The position that the underline is that we're helping humanity. Islam. We're helping the world. We're helping people. Islam. And then Noble Ali came and said, what was the Moorish Scientific America founded? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. Islam. So fall in line. It says, O son of humanity. So you coming from that you were lifted from. Islam, by Noble Ali's hand. And it says, who honor thee with humanity, and guide thee with speech, and place in thy society. Islam. So again, the key word is very important. To receive and confer reciprocal helps and a mutual obligation. So that's when you're giving people help and you're receiving help. Islam. So that's a pretty deep measure. I'm going to skip on down. I'm going to go down to the part right here that I like. It says 3. It says, it is thy duty, therefore, to be a friend to mankind, and in thy interest that man be friendly to thee. Islam. So when you press in their hand, remember that. Islam. And of course, the order. As I gave that position, we have the Prophet Noble, he's given us an order. Islam. We're going out to do what we can and uplifting fallen humanity, giving them an understanding about the nationality, divine creed. That's what we do. Islam. And tell them that you're not native, black, and color. Islam. That's what we are charged up, and that's what our positioning here is to do. Islam. Especially here in Durham, North Carolina, where a prevalent society was at. Islam. Black Wall Street. But again, like I said earlier, for some whatever reason, those things didn't last because they didn't have the remedy. Islam. But the Moorish Scientific America has been around for a long time. Islam. It's been around for a very long time, and we're grateful to this impregnable doctrine. And all I can say is, if you haven't proclaimed your nationality, we're here. Islam. We're going to be here for you. Just get in contact with the sheiks, so we can and the sheikhs. So we can definitely get that demonstration for you, Islam, because that's the most important day of your life. Islam, after that, and if you don't have your nationality, all I can say is anything else, it will be uncivilized. Islam. I'm going to go ahead and give the floor back to our governor, brother Stone.
Islam. Islam.
Thank you. Sheik Howard-Bey for demonstrating on order, Islam, civilization, a civilized society, that which makes up a civilized society. Islam. We have to have that understanding. We have to be taught those things necessary in order to be better citizens. You can't expect someone to do if they don't know. And that's part of the instruction that Noble Ali did. That's when he gave his life a willing sacrifice to teach. That's the purpose of the Moorish Scientific America. For what purpose was the Moorish Scientific America founded? For the uplifting for
humanity. Islam.
The Prophet began by teaching us to be ourselves.
Islam.
I'm going to read a little bit more from Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. Then I'm going to call on our next speaker, who has a very powerful presentation, PowerPoint presentation, that he's going to demonstrate. Just what Sheik Howard-Bey said. I'm going to read again. The object of our organization is to help in a great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. This is something we want to hammer this in and make it a part of every part to make sure that we stay on that mission. A national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. This time was 1927, 1928, 1929. There are more than that now.
Islam.
That's showing
The growth.
the growth of this movement.
Islam.
You know, I remember the instruction that Adam was given, that the Sage Master Supreme Grand Governor demonstrated in the video. He's told to replenish the earth.
That's
to
right.
be fruitful and to multiply. And that's what Moorish Science, the Moorish Science of America has done over these so many years, over 100 years.
Islam.
Praise Allah. At this time, I would also like to just demonstrate some of the tools that Prophet Noble Ali gave us. The statement was made that Noble Ali said, I brought you everything it takes to save the nation. Now take it and save yourselves. That's right. And we have here these tools, these master tools that the Prophet brought us. We have here the compass, square, and the axe. We have our Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We have our foundation, which is the Quran Questions for Moorish Americans. And we have the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, with our 7 great acts. And these are the laws that we adhere to in our Moorish society, the society that's spoken of. And the Prophet Noble Ali was so wise, he was so wise, he knew that out from the word society, a government or nation could be born. And bring us back into the constitutional fold, we must be aware of the principles of the said government in which we live.
Islam.
The Constitution for the United States of America, as well as your state constitution. Don't forget about your state constitution.
Islam.
The First Amendment is the door that swings open that allowed us to demonstrate what we are here doing today. The First Amendment, religious freedom,
Islam.
and all that goes along with that. And this is a religious society, and more will be spoken on that. But also don't forget your state constitution. The state is operating in conjunction because it's part and parcel of the federal government.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
don't forget this. We say it all the time, part and parcel, but if we leave this out, this is the 10th Amendment in the United States Constitution being fulfilled right here in the state constitution. So don't ever forget about your state constitution.
That's right, Mo.
Yes, man, there's a praise Allah. All right, at this time, we're going to call Grand Sheik Shem, who's going to demonstrate why is nationality important. Islam.
Islam.
So rise on the seventh, beginning all things in the name of Allah. Give honors to all true and divine prophets. I give honors to all faithful members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, of the Moorish Divine National Movement, past, present, and future. I give honors to all honors that have been given before me, because when man honors man, woman honors Almighty God Allah. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. I want to give special honors to you all. I want to give special honors to everyone on the live stream. I know Sheik Bro is on, and is joined as well as Sheik Jean
Bay, and you got Sheik
honors to them.
Nasir Matt-El on too now.
Islam?
Grand Sheik Nasir.
Oh, Islam.
Man.
Grand Sheik Nasir Matt-El, Islam.
Yeah, and
Honors to
some.
him and all the Moors in Raleigh, Islam. Definitely. Islam. Praise Allah.
Grand Sheik, can we give honors to Nasir too?
Yes.
Yeah, let me
Take time.
point out some of the members.
Islam. Brother Leo's Bay.
I go Patricia Lee.
Islam. My sister here.
Yeah.
You going with Sheik Bro?
You got Sheik Bro. Islam, Mo. And I seen J. Howard-Bey, Grand Governor. Come on back around to the Assistant Grand Governor.
So before I jump into the computer and navigate on the presentation, I just want to put out a question. Have you ever come across Europeans, and when they tell you where they come from, they'll either say they're Irish, they're French, German, and stuff like that? Have y'all ever come across that?
Yeah, I came across some of them. A little bit.
Okay, I thought if I'm not going to person. You know they never say they're European.
I know. And that's what they are.
It's a general term of European. They always specify the nation.
Islam.
So I wanted to keep that in mind. Even with today, there's a lot of focus on the Ukrainians. There's a reason why that is being the case. Why there's so much focus on a nation of people being looked out for. Nationality. That's what I'm saying? They don't say, I have white heritage. They say I have Irish heritage.
Right.
You understand? I'll have German heritage or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So with that being said, I'm gonna turn our attention to the presentation.
Yes, I
We'll get started.
give up a presentation here. Okay.
Why is nationality important? A lesson on civics. Okay, so these are the points that will be discussed in the presentation. The letter versus the spirit of the law. We will also deal with the statement known to make its members better citizens. We'll explore that. We'll be debunking common myths and misconceptions as it pertains to nationality. We'll discuss the fact that nationality determines political status. We'll give a description of nationality and birthrights, and we will conclude with a divine warning, specifically a divine warning by the prophet for the nation. Okay. First, let's get into some definitions. And these definitions come from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And if you can't get a hold of that physical book, because I know that's it's a very difficult book to get a hold of, you can actually go onto the website known as the lawdictionary.org, and you can get these same definitions. So first is citizen. Citizen is a legally recognized member of a state or commonwealth, either native or naturalized. The second definition is a native or naturalized member of a state or nation who owes allegiance to its government and is entitled to its protection. Now, Grand Governor Robert Stonewall just touched on that. So a lot of what we're going here will be expounding on what the presentation, the PowerPoint that Grand Governor spoke on. And we're going to explore that as well. The next one is civics. Civics is the branch of political science that deals with the rights and duties of citizens. That's key point. It is political science. And it deals with rights and duties of citizens. So not only are there rights of citizens, but there's certain obligations as well. We'll go into that. The study of political rights and responsibility of citizens and the operation of government. So along with there being responsibilities on our end as citizens, those of us who recognize ourselves and are recognized as citizens, there is also dealing with the operation of government, how government operates. Nationality. Nationality, which is, I always go into this definition, is that quality of character that arises out of the fact that a person belongs to a nation or a state. Nationality determines one's political status, specifically with reference to allegiance, where domicile determines one's civil status. Nationality is acquired either via birth or naturalization, the status of belonging to a particular nation. That was why I was mentioning about particular people. They always tell you, yeah, I'm Irish, German, even people from the continent of Africa. They're very specific. I'm Nigerian, I'm Kenyan, and so on and so forth. I'm Senegalese. Why? Because nationality is important. They recognize the importance of nationality. Now, there's a group of people who, because nationality was taken from them, have not recognized that importance. So this goes into key 14 of the Moorish questionnaire. Why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Assistant Grand Governor Robert Paige-El spoke about the flags, the two flags the Moorish Flag, which he went into depth, and the American flag. So when you speak about us being descendants of Moroccans, that is represented by the Moorish Flag. Being born in America is represented by the American flag, because nationality is determined by two particular tests or qualities. They call them jus sanguinis and jus soli. Jus sanguinis is a Latin word meaning right of blood. Jus soli is a Latin word meaning right of soil. So one deals with the heredity, your descendancy, your lineage. The other one deals with the place in which you were born, the soil of the land. So right now, we're actually going to play this particular video, which is called Black or African American, Neither Is Why. And this is Dr. Paige-El expounding on this particular subject.
I want to speak about, the collective power of black people. Well, what are you talking about? Do you mean the collective power of African people? You mean Pan-Africanism? Or Pan, then say African. I don't understand why people are so wedded to the term black. And the justification for it is, well, it's because the European made it negative. It's the Europeans' word. It was negative before it was applied to African people. It's like they're getting it backwards. It isn't that Europeans said we're going to make this word black negative in order to accommodate our desire to devalue African people or dark complexioned Asian people or dark complexioned Native Americans. That's not how it works. The word black, like absence of light, if you will, was supposed to be understood by any English speaker as largely negative before it was applied to people of African or Asian ancestry. Dr. Akbar, a prominent African American psychologist, often talks about one of our issues is that we have become, and we mean people of the African world, whether it's the continent or more especially within the diaspora, so-called black folks.
Yeah, because you got to turn the music.
Are very reactive rather than proactive, which means that if this individual is calling himself white, we're going to react and call ourselves black because we're the opposite. Not really understanding that we're not exactly taking a step in the right direction. But now, as I like to say, given all the linguistic and cultural baggage of black, you are trying to push an elephant uphill on roller skates. You're trying to turn a negative into a positive when there's a clean, pure stream nearby to draw from. They're referring to complexion. In fact, there's a famous scene in the movie Cry Freedom about the life of Steve Biko. The presumption is that this event actually occurred. If it didn't, it still made sense in terms of the screenwriters and Richard Attenborough putting it into the film. And that is, Steve Biko was in court. He's charged with basically, being seen as a threat to the apartheid system, and he was banned. So he's in court talking to the European judge, the poor British judge, and the judge says to him,
"Why call yourselves black? I mean, you people are more brown than black."
And Biko says,
"Why do you call yourselves white? You people are more pink than white."
And the judge goes,
"Precisely.
but there's no deeper unpacking of what just occurred. And it raises an important question about systems of oppression. Why did Europeans decide to designate themselves as white? More specifically, English-speaking Europeans, because the term white is an English term. When you know why they chose the term, then you know what they sought to gain by it. When you also see that they leveled the term black against us, Asiatics, Africans, Asians, then you know what they sought to gain by imposing that on us. But why the need to fixate on black? There's the work of a Harvard psychologist who I believe is of East Indian ancestry. Her name is Dr. Benashi. And her work on looking at the implicit association test, which is used by psychologists to look at implied bias or biases that exist. She recognizes what are often called mind bugs, or she's actually calling the term mind bugs, which are culturally imposed perceptions of reality. And the dominant perception of reality for those of us who speak the English language is when you say black or use black, its dominant use is negative. Black magic, black night, black death, right? And to try to overcome that is very difficult. Now, this is a Harvard faculty member, psychologist, prominent psychologist, who's pointing this out, and she calls them the mind bugs. Now, part of what people can do, you say, well, you need to get people to stop thinking of black as something negative. Okay, that's all right, but in the context of, do you want to fight that battle, or more importantly, should you be fighting that battle? Because you're still reducing yourself again to your pigment. And you're not looking at yourself in the context of a larger history. And if you want to, like I said, if you want to speak of we as highly melanated people, or we as in UC, or we as I would say, people of predominant African ancestry, that makes more sense to me. I'm just saying. So when I looked at what Drew Ali was trying to convey, and did convey, obviously, to those who heard what he was saying, back in the early teens and 1920s in particular, that you are not black, you are not Negro, you are not colored. Just on a psychological level, I can see the value. I haven't even gotten into what the value and importance of what he was saying by having folks reject calling themselves Negro, black, or colored, because that's a whole other issue. I just got into the psychology of it, right? That's why people, confuse. I've often thought of this. You have a child reading about the Black Knight and the Black Death and the Black Plague, and then the child goes, oh, and I'm a black child. What Benashi and others, Eric Heyman, and another social psychologist who talks about this issue of implicit bias and its roots not in the individual mind. Part of the perspective on this is many psychologists are now trying to figure out why is it that police tend to shoot quote-unquote black men at the rates that they do. And is it because the individual police officer is overtly racist? And what some of the psychology is now suggesting is it may not be a sense of overt racism, but rather the culturally imposed racism, what people used to call national character, how nations see themselves as a result of their particular histories and experiences. So, like I said, Drew Ali, just in terms of saying you're not Negro, black, and colored, was getting people out from under that weight of the negativity associated with blackness. And for people who say, well, it's better, the same person would not allow you to call him a Negro. But with all due respect, Negro is the same thing as black. If I'm speaking Spanish, I'm going to answer Negro. I'm going to call you a Negro, right? So it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, again, Moor is a reference to a people, to an empire that covered a geographical location. The Moorish Empire at one time was from the northwestern part of the Moderator, North Africa, all the way down to the Senegal River and as far east as the border of Egypt. That's part of what, and I'm just talking about what we know as the recognized Moorish Empire in terms of international diplomatic history and relations. So we can say that covers a wide swath of the African continent. That would include Africans of various hues. People who would be darker in complexion and others who would be lighter in complexion. And the primary sources from Duarte, Portuguese travelers, and Azawara, and English sources, all affirm that the term Moor was used for people of African ancestry. Later, the term Black Moor is introduced, but it's part of the development of the kind of pigmentocracy direction that exists. Within the English language, just as in other languages, there are different ways to translate something more accurately. So, and one of the examples I've often used is the difference in Spanish. If you're speaking of knowing someone versus knowing something, you don't use the same verb. Conocer and saber is not the same thing, right? One means to know a person, one means to know about something. By the same token, if you translate Moor to simply mean black, knowing that black in the English language is affiliated with so much negativity, long before it was ever referenced to people of African, or I dare say Indian ancestry, because a lot of people seem to be under the impression that black was only used to refer to people of Africa, and that's not true. Black was, and in some cases is still used to refer to people of Asia by Europeans. My first trip to England, and I was talking to people from Indonesia and Pakistan and Cambodia and different parts of Southeast Asia, and they were bringing to my attention how you could read articles in the paper, and this is in the early 90s, where they would talk about a black person doing something, usually it might have been affiliated with some criminal act, unfortunately, which was part of their point at the time. But they were saying that the term was used to encompass them. And there was a debate between the younger generation of these people from Southeast Asia, saying, well, we'll use the word black. Can you, people in the Americas have a black pride movement, and there was black consciousness in South Africa. And then there were those who were elders who were averse to it. They didn't like it because they said, you don't want to be encapsulated simply in a color, because now the emphasis is simply on your color and not on your culture. So they said, well, they saw the value of being young people, saw the value of trying to use a new hip kind of term, if you will. But the elders said no, because what that's doing is reducing your value, because in the English language, black is largely associated with a bunch of negativity. And just like Richard B. Moore said in his book from the 60s, the term or the word Negro is origin and Negro use. He made the same argument. Why you shouldn't use the term Negro? Well, guess what? Negro is Spanish for black. So folks went from Negro in Espanol to black in English. But it's still the same thing. And I literally mean thing. So defining yourself by an ethnicity or a nationality clearly would make more sense. And when the late, great political scientist Ali Mazrui, who was known for doing a series back in the 80s on Africa. He was Kenyan born. He actually said black people are the only group in the United States that is designated racially as opposed to geographically, right? Or nationally. And this is part of the problem, right? You have, and that's why I've said to people all the time, why don't we speak of yellow Americans? Right? If we're going to use the color nomenclature, use it across the board. Just use it all the time. But someone will say, well, I'm Irish, I'm German, I'm black, and they're running through their lineage. And I'm going, all right, Germans come from Germany, the Irish come from Ireland. Black, what is that? At least, because we don't know where they're from, you can at least say Africa. At least say Africa, right? At least say African. And now, in this day and age, you can even do an Ancestry.com test, and they can tell you, right, what part of Africa, what ethnic group or nation or so-called tribe one is from, right? So the value of not identifying with black is it compels you to be more specific in identifying culture, knowing your geographic origin, knowing your history.
Don't worry, you don't need to memorize everything from this chapter. You can click on the link in the description below and download the study notes for this chapter for free. Using the exact notes from this video will definitely elevate your own studies. Also, be sure to subscribe to the next and hit the notification bell for more videos and resources just like this one. We'll see you in the next video. Peace and love.
So I basically played that clip just to show the importance of nationality as a means of identifying ourselves as opposed to racial classification, which doesn't serve us as well. So we're going to get more into the concept of citizenship and nationality. We're going to explore the question of citizen or national, because within the Moorish movement, there's a debate about whether a person should identify themselves as a citizen or a national. You got those who say that they're not citizens, they're Moorish nationals, and they try to associate citizenship and say that that's being enslaved. Okay, so let's go into it. Citizen or national? Now this is important. All United States citizens are U.S. nationals, but not all U.S. nationals are United States citizens. That's important to understand. And the reason why we're going to get to the definition of a U.S. national. U.S. national is defined as a person born in or having ties with an outlying possession of the United States, which is at this. So we're going to continue on. I'm going to reread the definition of U.S. national. U.S. national is defined as a person born in or having ties with an outlying possession of the United States, which is at this date only American Samoa and Swain Island. It also includes those persons born abroad to 2 U.S. nationals or 1 alien parent and 1 U.S. national parent. There will be an additional residency requirement for the parents of the child prior to birth in order to transmit United States nationality. So to put that in layman's terms, basically, the United States as a country has territories. And these territories, they're not considered states. And in those particular territories, they have the option of they can be a U.S. national, but they cannot be a U.S. citizen. We're going to get into the specifics of what that means. But in the past, you had the people in Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the Philippines would be U.S. nationals in the past. But now, Guam, Puerto Rico, and Virgin Islands are considered citizens. At this time, Philippines became an independent nation as opposed to transferring over into United States citizenship. They became their own independent sovereign nation. So, nationals, what they can and cannot do in the USA. These are the restrictions. Nationals cannot vote in any election nor hold any elective office. So if you are just a national in the United States of America, you cannot hold any political office, nor can you participate in any national elections. The rights. Now, nationals are allowed to work and or reside anywhere in the USA with no restrictions. They are also eligible for the U.S. passport. And this is important. The national passport is the same as that of a United States citizen. They both say Nationality USA. Nationals are eligible to apply for United States citizenship through naturalization under the same rules as permanent residents. So if you're a United States national, you have to go through the same process to become a United States citizen as a person who came from a whole different country and had a permanent visa. Now, people may say, wait, hold on a sec. You talk about being part of the United States, but I heard that the United States is a corporation. Well, is the United States a corporation? That's also a thing that has been circulating. So again, as I mentioned, we're going to address some misconceptions and some myths. And where does this come from? This idea of the United States being a corporation comes from Title 28, United States Code, Part 6. Title 28 of the United States Code. That means judiciary and judicial procedure. Part 6 pertains to particular proceedings, like court proceedings, legal proceedings. Chapter 6 pertains specifically to federal debt collection procedure. And subchapter A deals with the definitions and general provisions. So that's what it means when you read that. Now, getting on to the next part, we're going to go into explaining of that code, or what it meant when it said the United States is a federal corporation. So, it refers to a federal corporation formed or incorporated by the United States, and that those federal corporations, agencies, departments, commissions, boards, and other entities or instrumentalities of the United States will appear under the name United States in judicial proceedings pertaining to federal debt collection. So what does that mean? That means in any judicial proceeding, any legal proceeding, you will see something that will say United States, like United States versus John Doe, right? But that United States implies those federal corporations. Now, also the use of the term means is significant in that the term means and is are not synonymous, meaning it's not one and the same. Is an irregular verb. The present third singular to be. So if I say the United States is a country, that means that's what it is. If you say it means country, then it's intended to convey or refer to. In this proper context, it means to signify, or it means to represent in that sense. So, when you understand the language, you understand how people have misinterpreted that particular United States code, and keep on saying that the United States is a corporation. Now, here are a list of federal corporations listed as United States by the United States Code. So I won't go into all of them, but some of them you may know of. The federal, number 4 is Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. That's the FDIC that deals with the banks. Number 6 is the Federal Prison Industry. That's self-explanatory. Number 16 is the U.S. Postal Service. So all of these under that particular code would be referred to as United States. So nationality versus sovereignty. And I actually did a particular a broadcast you can see on my YouTube channel where it's entitled Nationality versus Sovereignty, What's the Difference? But we're going to get into the definition of Black's Law Dictionary, and this refers to what Grand Governor spoke about earlier. Sovereign people. Sovereign people is the political body consisting of the entire number of citizens and qualified electors who, in their collective capacity, possess powers of sovereignty and exercise them through their chosen representatives. And you see the actual case of Scott versus Sanford. That's the Dred Scott case. And we're going to get into the Dred Scott case. Now, sovereignty is a political power. Sovereignty in the USA is not an individual possession. And sovereignty does not equate to immunity, to laws, codes, statutes, etc. And I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm probably going to skip some of these or just go over briefly. Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1857. And I'm just going to go specifically into the highlighted part of this opinion pertaining to Dred Scott. This was the decision that was never, that is the debate about whether it's being overturned. But we're going to get to that. It says, in the highlighted part, it says the African Negro race never have been acknowledged as belonging to the family of nations. Then it goes on to say, never has been known or recognized by the inhabitants of other countries anything partaking of the character of nationality. And last but not least, as property in the strictest sense of the term. So when you look at that, you understand how the Negro, as Dr. Jose Pimienta-Bey spoke about, is void of a nationality. That very term gives it no connection with nationality. Okay? So the question is, did the 14th Amendment overturn the Dred Scott decision? So I'm going to read quickly an excerpt from the Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nation. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unity, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. Okay? So getting into here, when you thoroughly read the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, along with the Dred Scott decision in its entirety, you can clearly see that these amendments do not address the legal status of the Negro as described in the Supreme Court case. These amendments also do not redefine the said Negro as one having nationality. If we are to have an honest conversation on topics such as racial injustice and the Black Lives Matter movement, then we must be willing to closely examine the laws created during the time of slavery and their lasting effects. So in short, did the 13th and 14th Amendment overturn the Dred Scott decision? No. And now we're getting to Noble Drew Ali. And here are some key points that we're going to address with Noble Drew Ali. He was born in North Carolina. He founded the Moorish Flag national movement in Newark, New Jersey in 1913. He mobilized his members into using a free national ballot by proclaiming their nationality as Moorish Americans, which led to Oscar the Priest becoming the first so-called Negro U.S. congressman since Reconstruction. Now, here are some quotes from Prophet Noble Ali. All these quotes you can find among the Moorish literature, but the point of it is that within these quotes, it speaks about citizenship. That's the point. Now I'm going to get to the last part and read the last sentence of that last quote where it says, and through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national Constitution of the United States government, and not a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. Right now, as we speak, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act has to be voted on every 25 years. So, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? 1, for the uplifting of fallen humanity. 2, for teaching the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. 3, for teaching melanated people, those mislabeled as Negro, Black, Colored, and African American, the truth about their nationality and divine creed. And number 4, for teaching those things necessary to make better citizens out of men and women. Here's some facts about the Moorish Science Temple of America. It is not a Pan-African or Black nationalist movement. It is not anti-government. It enables its members to acquire a full social and political recognition among the family of nations. It puts its members on a level playing field with other nationalities within the USA. It requires that its members actively participate within American politics while developing economic self-sufficiency. So the Moorish Science Temple of America empowers those previously labeled as Black, African American with the opportunity of true political status via the proclamation of nationality. Moorish Science Temple of America does not advocate the following. It doesn't advocate tax evasion, doesn't advocate squatting in vacant houses, it doesn't advocate operating a vehicle on public roads without a driver's license, saying you have a right to travel. It doesn't advocate quitclaim deeds, liens, or any attempts to beat cases, whether it's as mild as a traffic violation or murder, by using the argument that you're outside of the court's jurisdiction. Act 4 of the Divine Constitution and bylaws for the Moorish Science Temple of America clearly states that its members, quote, must obey the laws of the government, end quote. Now this is the cover of one of the Moorish Guides. The Moorish Guide was a newspaper put out by the Moorish Science Temple of America during the 20s when Noble Ali was alive in the flesh. And you see here, it clearly says, elect Anderson, which deals with Louis V. Anderson, and it says prophet. So it's telling you that Prophet Noble Ali clearly wanted its members to participate in the voting process. Okay? I'll jump to, and these are just excerpts of the Moorish Guide. I'm going to jump through it to get to the key part. Here's another one pertaining to politics. I want to focus on this one right here, free national ballot. Free national ballot. It says there is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the poll under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. Now, I read that before, but we're going to focus on it. And that comes from a divine warning by the prophet for the nation. So we're going to explain this. Here is another article that was put up by the Moorish Guide newspaper in 1928 called All Registering says 3,000 Muslims of the Grand Temple and the West Side Temple are making ready to register every man or woman in order to take the lead for the various candidates whom they have been instructed to vote for. Now, this is key to understand. This is 1928. This is 30 years at least before the Civil Rights Movement, where everybody constantly say that, you know, our ancestors fought and died for, they lost their lives so people could vote. But yet in 1928, through the Moorish Flag of America, Noble Drew Ali was getting 3,000 members to register to vote. And it goes on to say Alderman Louis B. Anderson, Honorable George W. Blackwell, Honorable Oscar DePriest, Honorable Robert H. Jackson, all working through the regular Republican organizations of which the Honorable Daniel M. Jackson is our master's leader, all know the whole situation and have their own way to give the order to go. The Muslims will be ready. So this free national ballot was a Moorish American voting bloc. And here you have a picture of Noble Drew Ali during the convention, the first convention of the Moorish Flag of America, where he's sitting next to Oscar DePriest. You'll see on to the right side. Oscar DePriest, who later became the first congressman, Asiatic congressman since Reconstruction. And I'm going to end this off with a divine warning. And again, this is another excerpt from a divine warning by the prophet for the nations. And it says the following: I love my people, and I desire their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. Nationality is the order of the day. And with the conclusion, what I want to say is that it's important that we recognize the importance of nationality, particularly as it pertains to establishing, determining political status. And that is one of the reasons why many brothers and sisters who've been labeled Negro, Black, Colored, and African American are still fighting for reparations, because the subject of nationality has not been put on the table. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali laid the blueprint for us to get our true divine rights. And with that, go ahead and I'll yield. Islam.
Get you, Governor.
Islam is
Governor, man.
I want to thank Grand Sheik Bro for this wonderful PowerPoint presentation, giving us a lot of understanding that we need in order to comprehend the system that we function in. You know, Noble Drew Ali, who's the one who drew a divine circle for us. That divine circle is the Moorish Flag of America. It's a divine circle, and he brought us the laws that we need to follow in order to govern our society, our Moorish society. He places a heavy responsibility on the Moorish Americans. That's what Nationality did. He did not place responsibility on people outside of the Moorish system of America. He placed the responsibility on those within. And that's from the leaders on down, but especially to the Moorish leaders. He placed heavy responsibility upon them. But this is very important that we wanted to discuss. We thought it was very important. This is the type of information that we're making public as our duty as Moorish Americans to extend the truth and learning of the great prophet of our leaders here in America. So this is not something that we want to keep, to ourselves. We want to bring it out for the public. And we've also gone to those that know law in the city hall and in the government, officials within the government that we hold conversations with, and we let them know of our intentions and how we believe through the teachings of those through our leaders, through expressing the importance of citizenship and civics, and how to be better citizens can actually improve society as a whole. Reduce the numbers of our Asiatic sisters and brothers. I say Asiatic, that's our true race. Not Negro, those are not races. Those are marks that were put upon the board really as early as 1774. And then became named in 1779 during the time of slavery. And when we speak about the time of slavery here as Moorish Americans, we acknowledge, as Timothy Dingle, hyphenated over Durham taught us, there are many periods of American history that we have to study. And we acknowledge 1774, the colonial period. And we acknowledge that a free national constitution of 1774 which laid the rock for America, which laid the rock that even George Washington tried to lead his people to, which later became the Constitution for the United States of America. And when we're looking at America, we're looking at the national period starting in about 1779. So that's when you're talking about, even when you talk about the discussion of slavery, certain things that I believe that the Moorish Americans are qualified to address that may be important and may be a benefit to all of our people. So we look forward to that day. We look forward to that discussion. But at this time, I want to thank all the speakers. I want to thank our guests who came and participated with us today. And I want to thank you online who came and sacrificed some of your time to be with us as we share this. And there's no big eyes, no little U's in the Moorish Science of America. We're demonstrating our portion, the measure that Allah has given us through our teachers on down to our past Supreme Grand Governor Jerome Grand Lady,